now we're going to learn more about death in ships. This is important because we're not going to be just dying from every little bit of damage. We're not going to be falling through floors and glitching out and randomly losing oxygen in our own ships in the future. Star Citizens, your life is going to last a lot longer. You're not going to lose it as much. It is supposed to mean a lot more. And ships themselves are meant to be full-on game spaces that you can use, move, repair, salvage, scavenge from, do a whole bunch of things with. Ships are not supposed to end when they get destroyed. And they're not supposed to necessarily get destroyed either, as we learned about this year. But I'm going to let John Crew and Richard Tyrer, two people who are pretty high up in CIG, explain that to you during this Star Citizen Live. And then I'm going to chime in with my own very annoying commentary, probably pretty often. Let's get into it.
And that, where's my...
Oh yeah, before we get into the Star Citizen Live, there is like a Crusader video and stuff. This isn't just a Star Citizen Live. There's actually some stuff also thrown around in here. So more Star Citizen Live plus extra thingy. Something.
From the show floor, the new starter from Crusader.
The Intrepid is the newest starter ship from Crusader Industries. Specializing in cargo delivery and lightweight combat, it carries several unique characteristics that set it apart from others of its class. The Intrepid carries its 8 SCU of cargo in 2 freight elevators, which also serve as additional entry and exit points in emergency situations. And while its armament might seem modest, the Intrepid bolsters an exceptional size 4 weapon.
It is modest,
giving it an edge over other starter ships.
But it can be modest, that's okay.
Well. Whilst this starter ship's distinctive design pays homage to Crusader's larger starfighter ships, its dedicated engineering terminal also ensures efficient operations for any challenges ahead. The Crusader Intrepid...
It'd be interesting to see how that engineering terminal plays out as an advantage here. How much engineering matters on a ship this size.
A worthwhile entry into IAE's showcase of vehicles aimed at entrepreneurial pilots making their initial foray into industry. And you can find it on this year's show floor to consider for yourself.
Despite official denial.
All right, you said go back in the static to see something or other. It's always in the static, man. I learned that from signs. It says IAE.
From the show floor.
All right, it's Nathan. Oh. Is that the new Anvil ship? It looks like an Anvil ship, doesn't it? It looks like a really large Valkyrie. Kind of, sort of. I think that's actually just the front section. What is this? Is a Anvil... an Anvil combat ship being said to be the Paladin. Do you guys think it's going to compete with the Starlancer TAC in any way as like a large dropship kind of thing? No, I don't think this is the Valkyrie. Yeah, it's chunky. It's got guns on its extremities, unlike the Valkyrie, which has guns under its wings. So that's that.
Where's...
Who are you and what did you do? Why did you nerf the Corsair? Drama with Polaris torpedo tubes.
From the show floor.
All right, let's get back up to here and keep going through this episode.
This year's show floor to consider for yourself.
Insane pigeon eyesight. Hey, pigeons have great eyesight.
Throughout the Empire, sources now confirm the existence of Legionnaires. The UE
Sources.
Highly trained special mission force. Their purpose to defend human freedom against Vandal and the forces of tyranny and evil throughout every corner of the galaxy. And they can now be yours in the comfort of your own quarters. The next...
Yes, definitely, Jared.
Legionnaire figures and vehicles. There's Shadow Stranger with Hornet Ghost. Hound Dog with Hornet Tracker. Sandstorm with Tumble Nova. Dr. Parasite with Terrapin Medic. Major Dauntless with Crusader Intrepid. And General Jax McCleary with the RSI Polaris. And while the UEE may not be able to confirm the existence of Legionnaires, you can recreate your favorite scenes from the hit show on Spectrum. And don't forget to buy 2, so you can always keep one new and...
Would they just call it GI Star Joe?
Crazy enough to sell
Would that be?
Legionnaires.
It has to
They'll
be.
send the Vandal back where they come
It has
from.
to be Star Legionnaires, right? Like they can't name something and not put Star in it anymore.
Welcome to the IAE show, brought to you from New Babbage, the site of this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, and your guide to the future of spacecraft and vehicles in the verse. Up next, we discuss A Time to Kill with Rich Tyra, John Crew, and Jared Huckabee. Don't change the channel, it's the IAE show, and it starts right now.
They have a whole freaking show
Thank
going
you so
on.
much. Welcome to the IAE show. I'm Jared. We're here talking
Who are you
with
thinking,
Rich
Jared?
and John about the future of space combat, spaceship operations in our Persistent Universe game. There's a couple topics we're going to cover, one today and then two more as we go. I want to talk about something that is at the core of the entire spaceship experience, and that's time to kill. Now, right now in Star Citizen, as players have known it since 2015, your ship can take a few shots and then it goes, poof, you know, fiery explosion. A very impressive fiery explosion. Shout out to Mike Snowden and his team there. But that's not the experience that we've been building towards. And a lot of the changes that we
They got the WikiLeaks guy working on Star Citizen?
with insurance and whatnot. These are tied into the future direction of spaceships and life on board spaceships. Talk to me about time to kill. How long are these ships supposed to last? Are they supposed to go up like confetti like they currently do? And what's the vision for space combat supposed to be?
I think the first thing we need to talk about is moving away from time to kill and move towards time to disable. Because in the PU, ships are not always going to explode, but we want you to be in that loop of wanting to own your ship. Loss should matter. And we want you to put time and effort into your ship, and that means time and effort into keeping your ship alive, and if something does happen, getting it back.
We've talked about physicalized damage in the past. Is this just a matter of getting that physicalized damage system in, or is there more to it than this?
First off, physicalized damage is tied to our Maelstrom system, which you probably didn't know, but we saw for the first time in action for the Squadron demo. All the ships, for example, in the turret sequence were set up with Maelstrom and using our physicalized damage system. We're moving towards more a physically based system that actually works out the speed of the projectile, the collision, and then generates the force, and that force then dictates...
Bruh. Actually kind of crazy. For a long time, I was like, how can I use my past profession in the content that I make with Star Citizen? And the only, like, what I'm most experienced with when it comes to my past profession are A, thermodynamic heat transfer stuff, which is like saying a skinny, small person. Like, thermodynamic stuff was the first thing. And then after that is stress analysis. And when I saw with Maelstrom that they were actually going to start doing like cantilever beam modeling for stress tension analysis using freaking all the things to figure out like what the heck is it? God, it's not Reynolds. Reynolds number is his number. The theorem for stress. I can't remember. It's something like it rhymes with waiting for Star Citizen, I think. Bad joke. But like all this stuff popping up, and I straight up just started to get trauma. It's like, nope. I'm not doing my job within this. That's not going to happen. But it is really crazy to me that they're doing stress analysis for specific parts of metal on these ships. And then it's like, okay, well, how much work does server meshing have to do when it's replicating one piece of information across 10 different servers all over the world? That's not too much work, right? But then you think about how they have to do the modeling of all of these different stress points on various spaceships being shot in various parts of space. How much of that ship is being penetrated by the bullets versus how much damage is going to the shields. Is the person on the inside running out of oxygen while all this is happening? Are they blacking out? Are we translating all of that information up to the replication layer and out to the people that they're fighting who are flying 400 meters per second in the opposite direction of them? Like, it's just an insane amount of data to do in the game as a whole. And then you bring into the fact that they're trying to model out stress calculations with cantilever beam modeling based on how hard a bullet is hitting the wing of your ship. What the f? good luck, guys. I hope it works out. I just want to play the game.
It's the damage that's associated with the ship itself. And what that means is that opens up a whole new area of gameplay for...
Young's Modulus. That's it. It's freaking Young. Young and Reynolds. God.
Piracy, taking those ships back, repairing, going back to your ship to actually either take it back to your own crafting hangar.
Nice, Lux. I worked in HVAC as well before.
If you're the pirate itself, you can...
Design side kind of stuff.
The council and get your own ID on there. But ultimately, while we have soft death in the game right now, that's kind of a faked soft death. It's kind of just a slightly move in that direction, but it's not the full physicalized system that we've been working on for a long time. You know, when John says loss matters, it's something we need to start talking about. If I have lost my ship and it does take a long time to get back, how does that impact me if I'm playing the game? What happens if that's my only ship? And I think that's where we need to start thinking about a more complex algorithm to deal with insurance claims and how you get your ship back. And then that directly ties into the TTK or TTD.
See, these conversations just wouldn't happen before. We can go back. We've done it plenty of times on our deep dives on Mondays. We'll be doing it probably January, February when times are rough and there's not much information coming out. We'll be doing some, going back into history and listening to them talk, because this kind of talk, I don't know if it's a Richard thing, I don't know if it's a time thing, I think it's a little bit of both, is so much more focused on the actual details of how a game is supposed to work than just how they want the tech systems to work that will run the game, It's so nice to hear these sort of topics and things come up in this manner regularly, not just as a little bit of like tossing out some good words to the community to keep them satiated, but like it shows that they're actually thinking about this stuff and pushing the game in this direction, which is nice. TDK sounds like a fast food restaurant. Yum. Maverick, thanks for the bit, dude.
Time to disable for us to be able to get these ships back. So if you think of, say, starter ships or ships that are small in nature, so like an interceptor or some of our small racing ships, those ships should be, like I said in the 1.0 talk, should always be readily available. So if you lose those ships, we don't really want to punish the player. It needs to be a symbiosis where loss matters and it needs to be impactful to your game experience, but it can't be so impactful that it stops you playing.
I'm going to switch over to my other browser so that I can turn up the volume for you guys.
What happens if that's my only ship? And I think that's where we need to start thinking about a more complex algorithm to deal with insurance claims and how you get your ship back. And then that directly ties into the TTK or TTD, time to disable, for us to be able to get these ships back. So if you think of, say, starter ships or ships that are small in nature, so like an interceptor or some of our small racing ships, those ships should be, like I said in the 1.0 talk, should always be readily available. So if you lose those ships, we don't really want to punish the player. It needs to be a symbiosis where loss matters and it needs to be impactful to your game experience, but it can't be so impactful that it stops you playing the game. Then it essentially curves up towards the more extreme scenarios.
Yeah, insurance fraud.
Almost agile algorithm that basically allows us to work out, like, okay, how many times have you lost your ship in the last hour? Does this player have only one ship on their account? How do we take that into account to make the player experience fair?
Of course, that's the ultimate penalty, loss of your ship. Until that point, we've got features like resource networking, which is the beginning of this time to disable, this extending the length and life of your ship to make it so that not only does it not explode right away, but the players, the members aboard the ship, have more opportunities to repair the ship. What is that experience supposed to be like on a single player ship? How do we keep that alive longer to the larger ones?
It's a two-way thing. Obviously, time to kill, time to disable is generally thought about as the aggressor's point of view, but it also matters to the victim of this combat encounter. We can't have it be so quick that you have no chance to do anything about that. So with physical damage and resource network, it moves it away from being a just sort of race to zero on the health. Items will start malfunctioning, forcing that person to make a decision of, am I going to flee? Am I going to deal with this now and take the risk? And then on the flip side, that gives you, as the aggressor, the chance to go, what do I want to do with this disabled ship now?
I think this is a part of the whole slowing down combat thing that we didn't talk too much about during the period in which that was happening. Yes, it helps with game performance, obviously. Yes, it helps to make battles more interesting and more fun to look at, and it gets Chris the whole World War II dogfighting stuff, whatever. It also means, though, that there's more opportunity to, like, participate in the fight. I think one of the worst parts of Star Citizen for me has always been, as soon as I start getting shot, I just assume that I'm gonna die, and I think it's easier to do when you're new to this kind of stuff. Like me specifically, myself being new to a game like this, I would get into the mindset where as soon as I start getting shot, I'm just not very good at the game, so I'm gonna die. That changed over time as I started to learn how to play the game, but I do think that's something that it's easy to get into the mindset of if you're a starter or just unfamiliar with the game in general. And giving people the feeling that getting shot is not the end of everything. Not only does your ship last, but even if they do disable it, it still lasts and you can still keep playing the game. And I think that's something that's good to send as a message to players, to make them feel more like there's time to think and act and do something that makes sense rather than just the first thing that comes to mind because you're panicking.
Obviously, single seaters have less room for options in this scenario, but really the bulk of that gameplay is on the larger multi-crew ships, where you'll be moving around inside your ship, repairing, replacing relays. The engineer will be diverting power to different systems, just to sort of give everybody enough time to decide what they want to do in that scenario. And there's so many different scenarios that can be done.
Sounds like we're building a progression here. Are the larger ships intended to last longer? They have more lifespan. There's more that you can do to keep them alive. Am I sensing this right? Is there a progression here?
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, we want you to progress in the game and build your fleet, whether that's solo or with a group. You need to be able to have some level of understanding that you're not going to lose it straight away. And the other aspect that I think is really important to see about in terms of when you say progression, it's not just progression for the TTK or TTD for across the entire spectrum of the game, or the progression for the player, the victim or the defender, or versus the attacker. When your ship is disabled, there's no way to bring that back. When we have the proper version where your ship components are gone and utilizing the physicalized damage, you can bring that ship back. And that's the huge difference. And that opens up this entire gameplay loop where you have towing and repair, and maybe somebody can repair it for you. And that's what, you know, they've opened a nearby shop, so they're a repair shop and they give you good chances to repair versus cheaper prices than taking it to an LZ or a space station. So I think when we talk about progression, especially from my perspective, I want to see progression across all the professions.
That's also what's being forgotten when we talk about engineering and maintenance, and this idea that components will take damage and need to glitch and all that stuff. People are like, I don't want to deal with that. They're going to kill the game. They're making it too hard. There's too much work. This is the death of Star Citizen. And it's like, this is the entirety of how some people want to play the game. They want to be repair people. They want to go out to other ships that are broken down and fix them and get paid for that. And they can't if there's no reason to repair, which would be component damage and problems that make your ship not work correctly. So I think it's similar to the argument of master modes, and not to say master modes is perfectly good system. Just the fact that a system might seem like it's only meant to do one thing in the game when they bring it in, but it's actually affecting a lot of different things that are pretty important to players. And that's not just a Star Citizen thing. I'm sure we could find stuff like that in any game. Look at Halo with its FPS shield, the way that the shield works in that game. I'm sure that shield is not just about the way that bullets hit you. It's also probably about the way that you can fall or jump or take certain amounts of damage around the map without completely dying. This is the gameplay loop you're pledging for. A lot of people love this kind of stuff. The Crucible's a popular ship. The idea of being able to corner a market in a place where there's no official services out in Pyro somewhere, and like make a reputation for yourself. Just imagine you make your reputation for yourself. You set up a small base out in the corner of Pyro on some moon. You pay a lot of money to make sure that the whatever gang or org is local leaves you alone. You keep the information quiet as much as you can. Obviously, people will find out. But like in terms of the actual data point that shows where your base is, that allows people to quantum travel there, you don't hand that out often. You put your services out there. Only people of certain reputation can see them. They click, they get the location, they come to you, you repair their ship, they get going. You also offer services where you can fly out to people and go repair them too, all around Pyro. All of that is possible because of these systems. And it might be annoying to be a player who has to deal with that kind of stuff, to deal with your ship breaking down or having problems like that, but it wouldn't exist without it, in my opinion. And I think from being able to strip or put back on the hull coating on a ship, to towing a ship from one place to another with the SRV, all these different things, they don't work how they're supposed to right now, but they definitely show that like there's a very good vision possible to hit with these different systems, and I certainly hope they do. It always might not happen, but wowzers, it's looking good.
They're a repair shop and they give you good chances to repair versus cheaper prices than taking it to an LZ or a space station. So I think when we talk about progression, especially from my perspective, I want to see progression across all the professions. And hopefully people start to see, and it's the reason why we wanted to talk about 1.0, people start to see how all these things connect together. There's a reason why we did all these things over the last 2 or 3 years. It's not like we were just throwing a dart at the dartboard and hoping that, oh, what feature is next? We had, you know, it's that grand plan about trying to bring them all together. But ultimately, we want to be in a position where we can start to focus and connect all of the gameplay systems. And I think this is a key part of that.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. This TDD, we're going to have to get in the habit of calling it TDD now, doesn't just open up the life of the folks who own these ships in combat. I'm really excited about it opening up, like you said, repair, refueling, rearming, all these things.
Absolutely.
It's like your ship hull is still there. Even passenger transport, like, hey, you know, I need to get back to my.
He said it. He said
ship.
the thing. He said passenger transport. He said it. It's the thing. Do it. Do it. Put it in game. Confirmed. Passenger transport 2025. Oh my God, it's happening. Yeah, he said it. Jared said it. It's confirmed.
But, you know, maybe it's still in a conflict zone and everything, so I need, you know, help to get back. There's so many opportunities that increasing the lifespan of these ships gives to the game.
And just to be clear as well on that front, they're not end game professions either.
No.
Every profession in the game should have a starting location, so you can become self-sufficient if you want to play by yourself and you want to try and figure it out on your own. But then you can also engage in the community and be online. So there's definitely avenues that are available to you. You
mentioned the difference between PvE and PvP. So these changes on the surface sound great from a player versus player standpoint, from a player making their life in the verse, but trying to do some of our more basic missions and realizing that, okay, well, this time to disable change could make some of those missions tedious if it were applied unevenly across.
There's two things to take into account. One is the fact that if we look at the balance across the entire game right now, and I'm going to say end game, the current end game, because the current end game really kind of finishes with medium ships. We don't really have the large
current end game finishes with a 30K,
but the current end game's probably too easy, and the current starter position in terms of the balance of these missions is too hard.
Give us some for the PvEers.
And the second thing was
wait, I need to hear that again. Say that again for me.
Really kind of finishes with medium ships. We don't really have the large ship gameplay that we want to add. But
dude, music to my ears, man. We really don't have large ship gameplay. Large ship gameplay is not shoot larger laser at larger rock, right? Like, let's go.
The current end game's probably too easy, and the current starter position in terms of the balance of these missions is too hard.
Give us some.
Okay, I see what he's saying.
For the PvEers.
And the second thing was for PvP and PvE. So you kind of have this opposite end of the spectrum. You have this end of the spectrum, which is PvE side, where we want you to be the hero. And in that scenario, while we want to have challenging missions where you're going up against a high target bounty who's in a single ship and his ship is really well repaired, but we also want you to be able to go up against 4, 5, 6 ships as an encounter. Where we're going to start balancing that aspect is that those ships will probably be owned by bandits or pirates, and they'll be less well repaired, so they will be easier to kill or easier to disable. So if you talk about the PvE side...
Okay, wait, that, yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Just like, you could easily scale difficulty by component wear. Like if you introduce all the things they introduce for players, component wear, ship design, ship differences, weapon differences, they could easily give us, like, you could say, oh, they're a really powerful faction, right? A gang. But it's not like they're going to have hammerheads because they don't have access to large military grade vehicles generally. So instead, they just come at you with 20 Buccaneers, which is scary, right? Just like it's as scary as going up against a hammerhead, but it shows they have 20 Buccaneers that are like low on component health, because that's just the flavor of the gang, as opposed to just being like one scale of difficulty, which is ship size. Not saying that's what they're going to do, but it does open up the possibilities for them to be able to balance difficulty on more than just which ship or weapons they have, but also the health of the ship that they have and the combination of ships and weapons they have.
It will be easier to kill or easier to disable. So if you talk about the PvE side, I think more ships will end up going critical and blowing up, so that you're not left with just these 5 ships. And it's also part of the economy.
Also means less stuff hanging around building up the entity graph
balance, that we don't want you to just constantly be collecting ships, but ultimately we'll have
That's
that.
fair.
We will balance it.
Those big heroic experiences where you feel like a badass killing.
You don't want to be fighting the same 5 things for an hour.
Right. Exactly.
Disabling them all one by one. You want them all to go.
And then on the PvP side, you know, we want to make sure that, well, even
That's
if you're on
solid.
a starship and you're on a starship and we
basically they're okay. So what they're really talking about here is just saying we're going to make it so that not all ships are going to survive. Like most ships that we know of that we're keeping in good health will survive even if we take out components, but they're going to rig these ships to explode when they get killed a lot of the times, when they're coming from NPCs, just in order to streamline the game a little bit.
fight each other, or I'm in a medium ship and you're in a medium ship. We don't want to be in a position where 5 seconds.
Turkey Tomat is the code.
I think you're going to get greater enjoyment if you had to work for it and you had to have some level of challenge. And that's where we want to be, in a position where we can look at PvE and PvP and we can balance them in a way that gives us the best experience for both of those players. And I think this comes back to what I said at CitizenCon. We genuinely want to strive that everybody who wants to play Star Citizen, that there is a role in the verse for those players, and that they have something that they want to work towards and achieve. And ultimately, if they're going to, you know, spend their free time, we have a duty to make sure that we are providing fun for those players.
All right, so thank you guys so much.
I agree. I do agree with that. Thanks.
It's time to kill or time to disable, new term for the lexicon. Up next, we're going to ask John Crew to take us on a photographic tour of his 4 dogs. It's 2 Spaniels and 2 Labradors. Stay tuned.
I wonder how far away Maelstrom is. The whole time to disable conversation, man, we've been getting that, like, it's been slowly being dripped. We got, what was it? CitizenCon last year, we got a good demo of Maelstrom. We can actually go back and look at that right now. Little trip through history. So I think we can also look at the August Star Citizen monthly report. The Star Citizen CitizenCon last year. Engine demos. And they showed us this stuff here. So this is what they showed us with Maelstrom last year. Very destructive. So, like, ships are blowing up, right? Ships are getting ripped apart. And then, I guess, now it has been confirmed that if we go back in here, and we look at the ships that you're shooting at, these are also running on Maelstrom. So the damage they take is they're, like, falling apart and exploding and blowing up and stuff. Is supposedly running on that same system that's simulating, you know, the stress and damage that's going into these parts. And that's why they are breaking in the ways that they are breaking. So we've been seeing a whole bunch of Maelstrom, and see if this is the right monthly report. Did we get lucky? What was even, like, what was I looking for? I was looking for soft death? Yeah. So core gameplay implemented a new behavior for critical components, which will replace the existing soft death mechanic. When live, only certain items like power plants will trigger an explosion or soft death when destroyed. So this is just another part of that, and they've been kind of drip feeding this messaging to us that this is slowly starting to change. They are moving damage from the ship to the components. And they talked about a little bit about the hull damage that you would take. And God, what was that? That was in this panel, I think, in this show. Yeah, they talked a little bit about the difference between your component and your hull damage and how that would affect your ship. See if I can find it in here.
Moving that completely over to the physicalized component, so damaging the component.
There we go.
There's the relay with its fuses. Then there's the live support generator. The biggest thing we are aiming for is switching from your health pool of the bespoke ship to just moving that completely over to the physicalized component. So damaging the component is damaging your ship. I think this is the part where the biggest change for the players happen, because there the gameplay of repair comes in, and then you can revitalize your ship. So you can actually use your formerly dead in the water ship after exchanging or repairing the components.
So this is a pretty big initiative in ship development overall. This is actually a big part of why Master Modes hasn't moved as much over this last year. The vehicle team has a lot of work to do in these large systems, whether it's Master Modes, engineering, Maelstrom, whatever. And so a lot of the work that they've done this year has been focused on engineering and getting ships into a place where they can work with all this, whereas last year was more about Master Modes, and they'll be returning to that once 4.0 comes out. But this whole idea of ships changing from just kind of blowing up to being disabled, losing their components functionality, and then eventually just being dead in the vacuum, I guess it would be, it's been creeping up, and it's been slow, but it's going to happen at some point. And I don't think it's 4.0. I think we're seeing it kind of get there in 4.0, but it does seem like this is a little bit of a longer term change coming up. All right, let's keep going on the IAE show, whatever they have still coming.
You thought you had the whole story, but there's still a lot you don't know.
Freaking Mark. What is Mark doing back in here? What?
Perfect.
Mark Avon is the bug maker.
Prequel shows are all the rage these days.
Bug makers. It's
oh my
easier
God.
than a show about fixing them ever was.
This only clicks with 50% of the community.
Quantum Questions, where we take a CIG developer, put them on the hot seat, and make them answer as many questions in under 2 minutes as they can. Joining us on the show this week is Vehicle Art Director, Mr. Ben Curtis. Ben, how you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. You excited?
A little bit nervous and excited, yeah.
Let's put 2 minutes on the clock and begin. Who are you and what do you do?
My name's Ben Curtis, and I am Vehicle and Weapons Art Director at CIG.
Are you any good at it?
I hope so. I'll back us aside.
Are you any good
Jeffries
at
tubes, yay or nay?
100% yes.
Why did the Polaris get so many new guns?
Because you want capital ships to be able to destroy things. But no, really, it just got PDCs.
Speaking of PDCs, are other ships going to get them now that they've arrived with the Polaris?
Yeah, we've added them to some existing ships already, and anything kind of capital ship and larger.
Ask him about the Corsair.
Does that include the 890 jump?
Ask him about the
Are
Corsair.
you happy with the Polaris?
Very happy.
Tell us one of the ships from that CitizenCon tease of the next 12 months.
The Perseus.
Ooh, can you tell us another?
No.
Why don't we make more variants of existing vehicles?
I think
Disqualified. He didn't answer a question. What's this? What's the point of this game if he can just not answer a question? Get him out of here.
when it comes to variants, it's a balance of backlog ships, new ships that we want to try and do, and then kind of variants, and it's just really getting them slotted in together.
If you could make a new variant of an existing vehicle right now, what would it be?
A bounty hunter cutter.
Oh, nice. What will be the next variant of an existing vehicle?
Super Hornet.
Retaliator modules. Which
Yes.
one are coming next?
Probably the dropship and habitations aspect.
What was your favorite temporary internal name for a ship or vehicle that never made it to the public?
We've come up with a code name, and all I'll say is you've got to catch them all.
Will the Connie get a Mark V after seeing how cool the Zeus is?
Probably not a Mark V, but it will get an update.
Huh. Look at that. They're not making different Mark number versions of every ship. We'll just point back to this whenever we get to that again.
Okay. Caterpillar modules. Give us something tangible. What are we thinking?
I think we've obviously got cargo at the moment. I think there's lots of opportunities. We could do exotic cargo. We could do, I know everyone wants a mini carrier or that sort of mini ship. Med base, lots of opportunities.
Okay. Carrick blast shields?
Yes, in 4.0.
What?
Carrick cargo doors.
Okay.
In 4.0.
Oh, shoot!
Try to squeeze one more in.
Oh my god, the Carrick's gonna carry so much cargo. That's great. Hold on. We gotta go back to this though. This is like more sandworm work, this is they're going back into 2017, 2018. If you go back to the Carrick's old pictures, this kind of stuff here, and you'll see they had this like, oh god, it's Pinterest, the dark hole. So hard to find, so hard to just like look at pictures on Pinterest. I just open, there you go. This is part of the original concept, where you'd have the regular canopy of glass, and then you'd get like this really strong armor that would deploy over it. And originally it looks like it would slide out, which was pretty cool. Now it looks like they've done this sort of folding kind of animation thing so far. Don't know if this is Dan McCabe. Sounds like he does handle a lot of this stuff, but it looks like they're good, and it's going to get its cargo, which is going to make the Carrick... It's going to make the Carrick such a freaking baller cargo hauler. Wow. That's going to be interesting to play with.
Shields?
Yes, in 4.0.
Carrick cargo doors.
In 4.0.
Yeah.
Try to squeeze one more in. What is the next manufacturer to get a focus after everyone frees up from the Polaris?
We're still on RSI, but we're also pushing on to larger MISC ships and Drake ships.
And what?
Still on RSI though, so I guess that means they are... I mean, we know they're working on the Apollo. That would be the most easy for them to continue working on. But they do have the Perseus coming, and I wonder if they're going to just continue straight into the Perseus after the Polaris is getting released. Interesting. Also, larger Drake ships is an interesting call. The Ironclad is a pretty good choice there. But we also saw what looked like another potential Drake ship. Execute thinks it's a Mirai ship. We'll see what it is. Oh, the Arastra. That'd be interesting. We'll have to see, but they also don't, like... I guess the Arastra just uses mining lasers. Yeah, we'll see. Shall see.
RSI, but we're also pushing on to larger MISC ships and Drake ships.
And what's the deal with the long dash of the Starlancer?
It's a subjective choice, and I thought it was really cool, and some people don't.
All right, let's find out how you did. And so after part 1, Ben Curtis sets the standard with a whopping 15 questions answered correctly. We'll see if John Crew can best him next time. Up next, Dan McCabe. Is he really all you need to make every spaceship?
I want more. Give me more information, please. No, there was some solid information in there. And the Crusader, or the Carrack getting its fix is pretty nice. That's good to see with the armor coming up. And the freaking cargo module is working. That's actually really great. There's a sneak peek in that last blurb. Did they do it again? Is it the Is it same ship? I don't see anything unless that's Morse code. Wait, are those John's dogs? This is just a prospector, right? There's nothing too fancy. I'm guessing that's the Paladin again? Interesting. Yeah, I guess it looks a little anvil. Actually, no. Oh, okay, I see. This is the ship right here. This is the outline. Interesting. That slope reminds me of the Gladius a little bit. So yeah, this is like a back left shot looking down at the Paladin. You got a turret up here. Looks like you got like a little, maybe like a space back here. I can't really tell. And then it just switches over to this. All right. Yeah, so that's about it with the IAE stuff, the specials.